Hello and welcome to this new video. In the previous video, we discovered the lobby session notifications and we implemented the logic of register and unregister players from session. So we did everything we needed so that each player will always be up to date with the session and its modifications. Today, we want to start implementing the kick member system, so we will give the host the ability to kick members. To begin, go to your character for which we created the widget containing its player name. Access this widget and open it. What we want to do in this widget is to add a button above the player name, which will trigger the kick process when clicked. It should be noted that this button must be displayed only on client characters and not the host. Also, it is only the host who can see this button and not the clients, because clients do not have the authority to kick players. Just follow me. Set the visibility of this button to hidden by default, because it should be visible only to the server. In the event construct of the widget, we want to implement the visibility logic of the button according to the player. If he is the host, therefore the server, the button will be visible, otherwise, it will be hidden. Use the Unreal Engine node getNumberPlayers of the game mode, which returns the number of players in the game mode. We need to know first the number of players in the lobby, because if the number is 1, so no members in the lobby, then we must not display the button. If the number is greater than 1, then we have a host and members. We must check if this code runs on a client or a server. We can use the node is server of Unreal Engine. You can use the node has authority to. If it is a server, therefore a host, we set the visibility to visible, and set it to hidden otherwise. Like this, This button will only be visible if we are in a multiplayer mode, and visible then only for the host and not for the clients. Run a test to verify the implementation. As you see, the button is not visible because the number of players is 1. Create a session and then join from player 2 to see what will happen. And there you have it, the kick button is visible only to the host, and just for the character of the guest player. On the other hand, the client does not see the button. So everything works as it should. We now want to implement the kick logic, when the button is clicked by the host. To do this, select the button and then add the on-clicked event. We need to ask the game mode to kick the player. So we need to add a function in the game mode interface to do this. Add a new function in the interface and name it kick member from session. This function must take the player name as parameter. Go back to the widget and call the function of the interface we just created. To get the player name, we can find it from the character name variable of the widget. Go to the player controller interface. We must add a function that is used to execute the process of leaving the session by the client. In this interface, add a new function and name it leave session. It must take the session name as parameter. Go to your player controller and implement this function. The process of leaving the session by the client must be executed on client only. For this, create a custom event and set the replication to run on owning player. It should be noted that the online services of Unreal Engine do not have a function dedicated to unjoining sessions. For a client to be able to unjoin a session, it is enough to call the task destroy OSS session. Be careful. The destroy session on client does not destroy the session of the host and therefore of the backend. It detaches the client from this session only. On the other hand, if the host destroys the session, it will be deleted from the backend, and thus the clients will be detached from this session. Once the player is detached from the session, we must force him to disconnect from the server, so make him travel to his lobby. It is the opposite process of join session. You can use the easy OSS node, do client travel to send the player back to his lobby. Just put the map name in the connect info parameter. and you can instead simply use the Open Level node. Now we want to continue the implementation of the kick system by the host. So in your game mode, implement the interface function, kick member from session. The process consists of finding the player controller of the client to be kicked from its player name. Then use this controller to call the leave session process that we have just implemented in the player controller. We want to loop through the player card's variables to find the player controller of the player to be kicked. Once we have the player controller, we will call the interface function named leave session. I want to replace the loop node with a loop with break, because there is no point in continuing to iterate once the player is kicked. Run a test to check the result. Create a session on player 1, and then join it from player 2 and 3. Again, you see that only the host can kick clients. I want to test by kicking out player 2. And voila, player 2 has been kicked and returned to his lobby, while only the host and player 3 remain in the other lobby. I now kick out player 3. Likewise, he was kicked and returned to his lobby. We can also see that the post logout works well and that the number of players in the session is updated with each kick. I want to check now that player 2 and 3 can join the session again. There you go, everything works fine. However, there is a small bug in the spawn system. We will fix it later. That's all for this video. See you in the next one.